Alright, let me see here. That finished. That's good. Looks like we're holding green, except when I had to realize I had to plug my mic back in. I haven't unplugged it in so long. But that was the getting a printer thing going. Anywho, howdy folks. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics, and we're about to get ready here on another What You Reading. This is What You Reading 9. Other chatting and updates, I believe. I think that's what I called it. I'm going to go on over here and see if that's where it's working. Howdy, folks. I'm Cody. This is Little Alita, and we're happy to be here with you. Hope you folks are well this new comic book day. I hope you're enjoying reading and sharing in this wonderful set of circumstances called comic books. Yeah, you just want to play today, huh? So I hope she won't be a little too persistent, but maybe she'll add some entertainment factor. Um, Anywho, I read a decent amount this last week. Um, we'll go over, as always, what I was able to get to, and we'll chat about it. And I'll see if this kiddo, Sid, will let me chat. Otherwise, you're just going to have to watch the kid with me, huh? Alright, let me see here. Let me know if there's any lag, voice issues, any of that. As always, it's when it's been a week or so, I'm not always perfectly tuned. Everything kind of falls out of whack, and you gotta adjust here and there. Welcome, BMR Comics. Thank you so much for stopping in. Howdy, howdy. All right. Looks like we're good. She's gonna stay down there and munch on her little what's left of a green pig. That sounds good to me. So let's grab what I've been reading here and start from the beginning. Where do I want to start here? Oh, I don't need that in particular right now. I can go right there. All right. Let's see here. So, we've got some manga. We got a single issue from IDW from back in the day, an interesting crossover. Got two issues of Gru, and finally finished Making Comics by Scott McCloud. So, pretty good reading this week, I'd say. Pretty good reading, enjoyable. Let's see. And as always, as this is going on, please feel free to let me know what you've been reading, and we'll go from there. I love discussing and figuring out what else is being read out there. It's just useful data to have, right? Okay, so we'll start at the beginning, I guess. We'll start at the beginning. Um, so last week I was talking about Alita Mars Chronicle, Battle Angel Alita Mars Chronicle. I think Volume 4 and halfway through Volume 5 was what I discussed, and how I was not sold on the direction he was taking with Volume 4 and how far I had gotten to Volume 5. It wallowed in cruelty a lot, and honestly, I was worried that was going to take forever, and that was where he could have lost me. Instead, take your pig out there, huh? Instead, um, what ended up happening is the second half of this volume 5 started moving back on what I'd say on course. It started again involving directly with Erica's life and Alita's life. We're combining again, which was nice. The child versions of both, and about had towards the end of volume 5, I believe, because I don't think it's in volume 6, find out something that kind of paints the entire Battle Angel Alita saga since the original run in a different light, and it is connected to the supervillain that I had a lot of problems with, the last bit. And so the son of a bitch did it again. So with with Omnibus 3 in Alita Battle Angel Last Order, he did the same thing. And I've basically every time I've talked about Battle Angel Elite, I kind of brought up where he's lost me, and that was one of the times. He brought in vampires and made no goddamn sense. It went on this huge tangent, and I was hopeful he'd be able to. I felt the same vibes with this, and with that, he was able to tie it together, and it made sense, and it made it worthy. It was just at the time when you're hitting that in the story, it kind of feels like it's too much of a tangent. It doesn't carry. Um, this was much shorter on it. I was really worried he was going to spend volumes and volumes honestly, this cruel piece of shit I don't want to read about. I'm not buying a manga for that. I'm buying it for Miss Alita here. And he didn't wallow as long as I was worried, so I was very stoked about that. It made Volume 6, man, I tore through that in one sitting, whereas this Volume 5 and Volume 4, it took me a while because of the subject matter was just not what I came for. But fucker figured it out. Fucker figured it out, and by the end of this Volume 5, it's got a character. You throw a cowboy into a cyberpunk, and I'm a happy camper. It made that character, which is introduced way back at the beginning of Mars Chronicle, um, finish that arc with the cowboy character. And that's a really cool arc. In fact, the last page I shared on Twitter because I love it. It kind of surmises a lot of just what I love about cowboy characters and what I love about Battle Angel Alita when it wants to do something proper. Um, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, one of these days I'll get it better, but no regrets though. It says up top there. And man, again, by the end of Volume 5, it had me hooked. It got me the kind of story I expected, and though it he sold me on why he spent so much time wallowing in that cruelty. Now I think we're gonna go back to it with Volume 7 a little bit. I think it's gonna last the repercussions of the reveal, which I'm not going to spoil, because again, if you had heard this and you want to go read Battle Angel Alita, and you heard this spoiler from Mars Chronicles, that's very foundational to who Alita actually is as a character. Um, it it could paint the entire saga very differently if you know that information beforehand instead of when it is revealed as a reader. Um, so that's a little dangerous. As a creator, I don't know if I'd want reveals like that until it's really established, and that's where he's at, right? That's where he's at. So it works. It works as the ongoing. But again, if you had heard the spoiler that is kind of in both of these volumes, um, but I think it's revealed in 5. Um, because he plays around with it a little bit, makes you think it's one way and then it's another way, but it's still basically the same way. Very vague, I know. I don't want to spoil it. It really could paint Alita as a different kind of character. And if you go into the original series with that, which I'm gonna do as soon as basically I've caught up. I'm waiting for Volume 7 to drop later this month, and then when I finish that, I'm gonna start Battle Angel Alita from the start again, and I'm gonna try and do either a chapter by chapter or an arc by arc analysis on the channel. We'll see if I can do that. And so I'll have a complete picture of where he's at while I'm going back and where he came from during that, and I'll have more to say then. But definitely, I don't want to spoil that reveal. It's relatively tangential, but it's such a powerful idea that again, it could really paint the rest of the series in kind of a shitty light if you haven't already read it. Um, but having already read it's an extra layer, right? You have all the context that came before it to kind of integrate it. Whereas if you heard it beforehand and you had to integrate it as you were reading the context, again, I think that would throw off the beat or throw off the rhythm. So yeah. Anywho, fucker did it again, where he had me worried that it was just going to be shit I didn't want to read, and then justified the shit I didn't want to read. Um, Very well done. I think that's kind of hard to do, particularly where you take this big left turn. And everybody's like, "Where the hell are you going?" And then you go around and it connects, and it makes sense. That's a very rare talent. I'm glad to see that and know that it can be done. But yeah, definitely don't read Mars Chronicle before you read the rest. Period. Volume 1 of Mars Chronicle, any Mars Chronicle. Don't read it before you read the other Battle Angel Alita, or it's really going to change what the original's kind of feels like, and that sucks because the original, when it stands on its own, is a fucking masterpiece. Um, this is just additional context, additional content, and I appreciate it having read everything, But again, I think if you got some of these spoilers beforehand, it would ruin the work, and that would suck. So I'm not going to say what that spoiler is. Um, read on Amazon. If you read Amazon reviews, there was a couple that mentioned that that reveal I'm talking about kind of ruined the character for them. I could see that, but with how he's doing it, I'm excited to see how he integrates it compared to worried. Again, he had lost me, but then that reveal integrated that supervillain concept and why he was wallowing in all this side cruelty and evil, which he's done before again, but it felt even more tangential. It didn't feel like it felt more directionless until he shows, oh no, 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 there's a direction and we're going to finish it. I was really happy that he finished that arc, that supervillain character's arc. I was really worried that that was going to be all fucking Mars Chronicle, and that would have bothered the hell out of me because the character just couldn't carry that much weight. The supervillain's an idea. He's not much of a character, I guess is the best way to put it. Um, and so I was really worried it was just gonna just mull in that. Didn't at all. And then when I got to chapter 6, I just fucking tore through it. Um, as always, beautiful fucking art. It's only gotten more and more refined and interesting. Erica's gotten more and more evil as it went on, and I think that's only going to continue. Um, there's some horrific imagery. I don't mind showing this because you don't have context, but it's horrific. We talked about that again. Mascotoma um, is kind of a driving point. It's this disease that certain the supervillain and a bunch of other characters were given fucking with some ancient Mars technology. They were looking through ruins, and this queen and a bunch of other characters, they ended up getting infected with this thing called mascotoma. Usually kills you. It develops, you develop faces and heads with brains. So they end up drawing all your hell, all your energy and slowly killing you. It's tumors, but living brain tumors. It's interesting. It's interesting. Um, it did good. I'm excited. Volume 7 again releases in the US market the 20th of this month. So after I read that, because there's going to be months and months before Volume 8, I'm sure, then I'll jump right into the original run again. I'm excited because I really like the original run more than the other runs so far. So I'm excited to go back into it and kind of talk about it and with the full context of where he decided to take it, right? I think that's interesting. Um, this series kind of tries to deal with family. I think that's one of the bits of identity that he's touched on in Last Order and the original Battle Angel Alita run. Um, uh, Battle Angel Alita, as a thesis, is exploring identity. That's all it is throughout the whole thing. It's trying to explore how many parts you can replace and still be considered human, what it means to be considered human. Um, from so many different levels, from being that transhumanist thing where you upload your brain to a fucking machine, and is that summation still your soul, or is it simply a hollow copy of your soul? To one of the major themes at the beginning is amnesia. She doesn't remember who she is, so she carves out a new identity, Alita. And then the exploration of that new identity, and then Last Order integrates a little bit of Yoko, what she's known when she was a little baby, into it. And Mars Chronicle explores Yoko, who Yoko was. And in Last Order, Alita remembers who Yoko is. And he doesn't talk about Yoko much in Last Order, so he could do it in Mars Chronicle, I think. And so, the fucker again almost lost me, but he brought me back. And it's still Mars Chronicle is much. There's a lot of evil, a lot of darkness in the original runs, or in the original run, and then in Last Order, this takes it up a notch, and there's a reason for it, which is nice. Again, I thought there wasn't going to be, and that wouldn't have been good. It wouldn't have been something I would enjoy continuing, and would suck because it would put this darkness on this entire journey I've loved taking. But that's not what he's doing. I thought it was, which again, I'm glad I was wrong. So again, I mean, these two volumes showed a little bit of heroism, and that within the first, God, four volumes of this, there was barely any, if any, kind of heroism, any kind of good to it, and yeah, brought it back. But there was a reason he held it back. So, yeah, I definitely recommend this, but start at the beginning, please. You will lose so much of the strength of the story if you don't start at the beginning. All right. That kind of covers these two. I'm definitely excited for 7, and I'm glad I can say something more positive because the last couple volumes and last couple What You Readings that were involving these, not so bueno, but I get it now, and so that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad he can make me get it. You're not always guaranteed when you take a risk like that you can recover the reader, and in my case, he recovered the reader. All right. Then we'll do this single issue. This was fun. Uh, this was the X-Files conspiracy. I guess this is part 4 of 6, but it's relatively self-contained. I didn't need to know what happened in the first 3 parts to have fun with this issue. Um, what IDW was doing here, I guess, is a bunch of X-File crossovers. It started with, I think, X-Files and Ghostbusters, I want to say. Let me look. It's in the back here. No, it started by itself, and then part 2 was Ghostbusters. Part 3 was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Part 4 was Transformers. Part 5 was The Crow. And I think part 6 is it, again, like part 1, kind of concluding itself within its own universe. Well written, like I said, it was self contained enough that I could just read it. As a Transformers fan and an X Files fan, you could just pick up this issue and you'll have fun with it. Um, you won't get a conclusion to the story, and there's a couple threads that are integral to the overall plot. And you won't get the conclusion on that, of course, it's part 4 of 6. But you will get a conclusion of its own arc with the Transformers. And that was cool. The art was interesting. It's a little dark. The coloring maybe could have brought out a little bit more to it, but maybe that's what they were going for. The characterizations are fine. There's 3 Transformers. You get Bumblebee, Optimus, and Ratchet. Though Ratchet has the smallest role, he's kind of the plot device, whereas Bumblebee and Optimus are the kind of moving characters. With Bumblebee doing the most, because he actually joins the Lone Rangers or the Lone Gunmen, excuse me, on their mission here. Mainly follows the lone gunman. If people are aware from X Files, it's the 3 little nerds who help Mulder here and there with their ears to the ground, I'm gonna say, and they even got their own spin-off for a little while. That was pretty good. Some of the art's really good. Some of the art's really good, but it's just a self-contained comic. There's not. It's just it's popcorn fun. I would like to kind of finish the storyline. I'd like to see how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Ghostbusters and everybody kind of were integrated for this short run. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But if you just see this one and you're a Transformers fan and an X Files fan, I mean, it's great, great fucking fan service on both fronts. Tried to have an emotional beat that hits a little hollow, but it's not so hollow it's insulting, so it's enjoyable enough. Yeah, I'd recommend this again in a dollar bin. I bet the full story is a lot better than just by single part. And I'd love to see what the Crow, because that's a hell of a crossover. So that's the next part. If I can get a hold of the Crow part, I'd really like to read that. Honestly, the Crow, the Mutant Turtles, and Ghostbusters, all 3 of those could be a lot of fun exploring with the X Files. So I'd like to look more into it, but just picking up part 4, which is how I got it. I think I got it at a dollar bin. I saw it was an X Files crossover with the Transformers. I had to snag it. Totally worth reading. Totally worth it, even just by itself. But the overarching plot is interesting enough, just having read this issue, to want the others, which is great. That's how you should do comics if you're doing this kind of deal. So definitely check that out. That was a fun little read earlier today. Definitely enjoyed it. This wouldn't be a What You Reading without, let me see. Yeah, I gotta start here. Without some Gru the Wanderer. I get the cover there. It's a fun cover. Gru as a king. Hey, look at that. It's actually coming in pretty nicely. Nice. All right, I'll take it. This again kind of bugs me because this was a part 3 of 3. I wish it would have labeled that on the cover, but nonetheless, it was self-contained enough. There's this wonderful, I'll show you, this wonderful. I like when Aragonus does this too, so it was kind of neat. Um, it does a recap from Aragonus's studio, which is really cool. It just recaps the story. He has the guy who does kind of his translating and fixing for the English language, kind of there. Also, I'd call him his editor, but basically every Gru issue has a different title, which I like also. Um, this one, Gru is king. I guess he got the kingship in the parts 1 and 2. Um, and it's just a kind of a classic monarchy struggle with Gru just being a tool. It's another amnesia story. He has amnesia, and so he's being used by an evil prime minister and some evil councilmen to rule this kingdom. A couple different kingdoms. I guess there's 3 kingdoms involved in this. Again, this is part 3, so I didn't see how strongly all the kingdoms kind of work together. His sister Gruella's in it. He has her kingdom now. It starts off with her about to be executed. Gru gets his memory back and then starts looking for his dog because Rafferdo was captured and is being brought back to his original owners who still want his collar mainly. And hijinks ensue. It's Gru's kind of a sitcom in that it's got these kind of setups, and then most things are back by the end of the issue, which is nice. Um, this was a good one. I wish I could have read the first 2 parts, so I got more of the ongoing. But again, that intro I kind of showed the first page of. Very comedic and wonderful way to fill in your fans and readers who may not have caught the previous 2 issues. It did fine. I knew what was going on, and I could read this as self-contained, even though it certainly wasn't. Luckily, it was the tail end of a story. If I had picked up part 2, it's a lot harder to do, right? I don't remember what the moral was in this one. That's worth checking out. The morals are always one of my favorite parts of this because it usually sums up the issue. The next book, though, I'm really excited to talk about. But this one, the learned man makes a mistake but once, but the truly stupid keeps practicing until they get it right. Which, yeah, that's about right. That's about right. And just a lot of fun paneling. I'm always going to say, Gru is some of the most fun, funny book work probably ever put to page. And I really appreciate it, and I hope more folks read more Gru. But let's talk about this next issue, because this one, yeah, it was self-contained, it was good. It was still part 1 of 3 for being self-contained, though, so you maybe missed a little bit of the build-up. But again, enjoyable, enjoyable. I really like that cover. But this one, number 78. So that was number 75. I'm starting to hit the holes in my collection, which is sad, and I'm hoping to fill in some of those holes here soon, because man, I love this series. But this is Gru, the Wanderer, number 78. You might notice they're burning books, and this entire issue is a middle finger to censorship in Argonius's kind of gentle, cartoony way. Um, a is he the prime? No, he's the censor, and then so there's a royal censor, and then there's the prime minister, and king's away at war. Gru ends up in a bazaar, I'm gonna call it, and he sees a buddy who I guess he's met before. Again, I'm missing like 30 issues, so I'm assuming he met this ongoing character before that. I think he's called the Scrivener. He he's a writer, right? He's an author, and so he's selling his newest book. He thought he would. I guess Gru in a previous encounter really fucked him over as Gru does. So this is him again trying to make money off of books. And so he writes this book. Gru is kind of going through the place and then picks up a book and is looking at it and such. During that time, this censor is going through the place, and he just keeps seeing like kids playing soldier and stuff, and says, "Oh, this violence, we have to knock it out. We have to find the root of it and stop violence from ever occurring." And man, I this was a really good discussion of censorship. A lot of fun while still hitting the main points. It ends with a trial of Gru. But what sets it off is the censor sees Gru holding the book and kind of looking through it and trying to figure out what good is a book, right? Being Gru. And Eventually he gets frustrated or something sets Gru off and he becomes violent. So that is the trigger for the censor to think that the books are causing all the violence. And so he goes about systematically removing books from this kingdom. It starts off, well, you can't write this kind of book, and he starts arresting that author friend that I had mentioned a minute ago, and then he goes from that to, well, now we have to burn all the books because it's not working. People are still being violent. And then the king comes back. The king he trusts his people. He talks about that, I've been trusting those who I can't control. That's how my kingdom works. And the censor and the prime minister are kind of scheming to throw out the king and to impose their fascism on everybody. And yeah, once it gets to book burning, the king holds a trial. If you can justify why you did all this book burning, then I won't kill you. And at the end, the pun is Gru couldn't even read the fucking book. So the censor was so confident that Gru was inspired to violence by this reading, but Gru can't read. Um, and that's how it ends. I think the moral in it phrases it pretty well. Sums up the issue, and that's what I love about these. They're always summed up at the end by the thesis, by the general thought. Those who would protect you from words would protect you from your right to think. Just a wonderful, basic fucking censorship, anti-censorship message in a goofy Gru comic. So the comedy wasn't that amazing in this. I guess that would be the weakest part. It definitely was more focused on getting the message across gently and clearly than it was on comedy. In fact, both of these Gru issues weren't the funniest I've read, uh, but they were both super engaging. And this one in particular is one of my favorites because of how clearly it lays out this and in a um, non-pretentious way, right? A lot of political messages, right, are put very pretentiously, like I know I'm right and you should think that way. And literally this is saying you should just be presented with all the information. I trust you to do the best you can with all the information available. And I really appreciate that message. It's definitely one we don't get pretty much at all anymore. And for $1 in 1991, that's pretty cool, to be honest. And of course, Aragonius' art is fun, playful, and exceedingly skillful, usually a really high detail. Um, he's shoving he's shoving a stick up the butt of a baby dragon or something, an evil lizard on the cover here. So that's already great. Among the book burning, right? Gru doesn't even consider the books being burnt a problem. He just wants to eat something off of the fire. That is actually part of the plot that's in here too. Is he sees the book burning and thinks it's just a cookout. Um, that's pretty good. I don't know. I'm really consistently impressed by Gru. I haven't found one I didn't like. Just some are more funny than others. And this one I really enjoyed, not for the comedy, but for what it tried to tackle concisely, clearly, and in one issue. It's very short about it. Um, I'm gonna try and remember Gru 78's about this because it's a great political expression, right? It's the Fahrenheit 451 expression, uh, put in a Conan the Barbarian comedy by the Mad Magazine guy. What more could you want from comic books? I fucking love it. Ah, so good. So good. Definitely pick that one up if you can find it. I wish it was $1 in the dollar bins. I've been looking at Gru since I've been running out of Gru issues, and man, that's going to be an interesting collection to try and finish. I'll just say that much for cost wise. All right. Last but not least, I can finally put this one to rest. It's been weeks. I think the last maybe month and a half of what you're reading, this has shown up because I couldn't finish it. Well, I'm pleased to say the last two chapters are fucking amazing, and they're just what they needed to do. They're a call to action and a call to liberation with the idea that you should know the rules so you can break them properly. And that's how you should end this kind of book. Again, it's a lot of technical stuff that was inspiring to me. It made me want to draw. In fact, I drew something for the first time in years, partially because of this book. But it's a lot of dry stuff. It's a lot of dry stuff, but it's presented very, very intelligently and with a sense of fun. Um, Very timely too. We've been having that discussion of manga versus comics again, and I'm so glad he takes the fucking stance that manga is just another word for comics, which it is. Um, and so he spends a whole chapter talking about the differences in manga. He spends another chapter talking about the four kind of pillars that comic creators can kind of find themselves holding flags for. Which is God. He calls them something very specific. It's these four, so I'll show you. It's kind of how he renders them in the book for you. But it's the classicists, the animists, the formalists, and the iconoclasts. Class Classicists uh, strive for excellence, the hard work, mastery of the craft, the quest for enduring beauty. Um, the more classic kind of Renaissance thinking of art. The animists are trying to present heart and communicate to people more. And they don't care as much how beautiful that communication is, just that the communication is clear and expressive and emotive. Formalists are more about understanding all the mechanics so that you can create new mechanics or use old mechanics for that communication in a unique way. It's the folks who love to experiment, right? And then iconoclasts are the ones who are going to do whatever they're going to do their own way, um, in a way that they're communicating their message first and not. It doesn't have to be this emotional thing. It doesn't have. It's their message, right? That's the focus, and that was kind of interesting. When this chapter started, I was kind of curious what these four, the comics culture is the chapter was called, understanding comics culture, and it was interesting that he could kind of roughly divide his experiences with fellow comic creators into these categories roughly. Um, and it's an interesting take on it. And then he spends a whole chapter kind of explaining how he found that take and how most all comic creators are going to sit at one of those four tables and sometimes alternate where they're sitting, but usually they'll pick up two or three directions out of that, and then they'll end up focusing more on one with aspects of another. Um, Interesting, very interesting. That one kept me going. Right, that's more of the top level stuff I appreciate. That doesn't have to deal with technique. It's more of a thought piece. And then at the end, he kind of suggests, there's no real way to get any of this done, which he's kind of suggested throughout the whole thing. These are just ideas, rules, and techniques that have been used and quote unquote proven, because he doesn't also say like this is going to work for you. In fact, he makes sure to say that it may not. But yeah, here we go. We'll go with the last bit. This is the call to action, which I really appreciated because it does surmise everything. Um, no matter how many tons of ink we've spilled on it over the years, comics itself has always been a blank page for each new hand that approaches. He finishes it with a mostly blank page with just a hand above it, ready to render something. And then that ends the book. Beautiful fucking ending. It's the right way to do this. And it made it easier. The last couple chapters, again, it made it really easy to get through. Because I'm an idealist. I like that kind of shit. I'm all over that. Um, Whereas a lot of this was, focusing on facial expressions and combining different things for different emotions and making sure that you're communicating clearly, all that kind of, which is drier to me because I'm writing it, not so much manifesting it into physical lines. So it was a lot harder for me to get through some of that. Very interesting, and I was glad to, and I'm probably gonna have to go through this again a couple times to really understand things. And super, super inspiring, but drier than understanding comics, which I still prefer. But making comics is really good, and I do recommend every comic creator have this on their shelf or somehow digitally and get through it because the man has nothing but respect and love for comics, and this is him trying to give back the knowledge that he's received. And you can feel that in every page, even if some of it's kind of dry. And that's what I read this week. I was glad to finish making comics. I was glad Alito Battle Angel, Mars Chronicle fucking came full circle again and actually inspired me to want to keep reading because it was mired in stuff I'm not the biggest fan of reading. But again, he was able to justify it. Just give me time. That's kind of how he can sometimes write some arcs. And so I'm glad I gave him time. Um, the GRU issues are wonderful. I like the anti-censorship one. It's one of the issues that's probably going to stand out the most for me. It wasn't the most funny. It wasn't the most artistically even inspiring, right? It didn't have the biggest, most dramatic set pieces, but the idea and how well it was tackled and put forward was wonderful. In fact, I might want to do an IronVerse quickies on it just so I can really dive into how it goes about talking about these points because I think it was one of the most respectful ways that I've seen a anti-censorship political statement put forward, right? Um, and the Transformers issue with the X Files conspiracy Transformers was fucking great. It really did make me want to check out Conspiracy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Conspiracy The Crow, and Conspiracy Ghostbusters, right? Um, all those could be a lot of fun, so maybe I'll snag those single issues. But even on its own, it did its job, so I'm thinking those other issues also on their own will do their job while having an overarching plot, you know? Um, Pretty neat, pretty neat. Good way to do a crossover with leaving room for the next issue to kind of drag people in where without limiting folks to having to get that next issue or having to get the previous issues. That's difficult to do and something I actually try to do in every issue of Jack Irons is, you know, you can pick up that issue, you'll enjoy it. If you had read previous issues, you'll get more enjoyment out of it. If you read future issues, hopefully that will give you more enjoyment out of those future issues, but it's not required. And I think that's relatively important if you're doing a long form ongoing series, right? And that's just a 6 issue miniseries, and they did it. So, but I think they were trying to combine all these different nerd fandoms to look at these different IPs and maybe get into the Ghostbuster comics or get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics or get into Transformers comics or get into the Crow, which I don't know how much more of the Crow exists. I just have the original run up there and a fucking beautiful comic. I don't remember which What You're Reading I spoke about it on, but The Crow, man, just a wonderful indie comic. It can be ugly at times, uh, subject matter, art wise, right? But there's this hauntingly, I'm gonna call it gothic beauty to it. This sad beauty that's just no other comic I've ever read has touched on it. So I'm kind of curious how you throw the lone gunman in with the Crow, right? And his story ended, as far as I'm aware. The Crow's story ended in that original run. So kind of curious how and why they dug up the Crow to combine it with X Files. That's kind of interesting to me. But yeah, that's what I've been reading. If there's anybody else in chat who wants to talk about what they've been reading, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, I might move on to campaign updates and our works updates, if that works for folks. That's the next logical step. Let me see. Do. Appreciate that, my wonderful publishers. Looks like that may be where we're at. Maybe where we're at is updates, huh? So that's what we'll do then. We're going to move on to updates, but as always, this is what you're reading. So in the chat, if you show up late or show up now, let me know. Um, if you know what you've been reading. That's the point of this. But welcome 8-bit. Thanks for viewing on Periscope. It looks like very cool. I'm glad that platform's still up. It's supposed to be dead in March, and then they just shut up about killing it, which is great. Um, Thanks for showing the last page. It was interesting to see the blank page, but a drawn hand. Again, man, Scott McCloud has beautiful class in these quote unquote textbooks that he put out. Understanding comics, I tore through because he put so much of his passion and love for what sequential art is into it. It was just wonderful. And this again, it was drier, it was technical, right? But a kept his heart, and that's what kept me going through all of it. And then that last page, a beautiful send off, and it's supposed to be a call to action, an inspiration. You've read all of this, you've got some of what I can communicate knowledge wise, but at the end of the day, it's still your turn. Fucking the right way to do it. It brings me chills right now. It's beautiful, beautiful. So I was happy to show the last page. I think it's a wonderful way to finish off that quote unquote textbook, because it is a comic, but it was dry technical like a textbook. um, but he kept as much heart and love as he could in it, and understanding, which was really important. He never wanted to make sure that you felt like you're in a box and he's telling you what to do. Um, Fucking important, really important, and the most classy way that you could handle that kind of lesson and that kind of teaching. Just very cool, very cool. Um, all right, so let's move on over here. I gotta turn off the standby and maybe nope. I gotta do this one. Boop. So this was the last Jack Irons update. Just yesterday. Um, the first batch of metal cards went out. I'm hopeful that they will reach their destination. I haven't mailed anything really before, let alone in bulk. So there's a chance I fuck something up, right? Um, I tried one card and I sent it to Wicked Publishing and it arrived fine. So I'm doing a small batch now of about 30. And once I start seeing those arriving, then I'll start doing bigger batches. And we'll go from there. But first bit of cards are out. And as I ask here, if you receive one, please let me know. Once I know, I can do larger batches and get this over with. Um, Again, it was about the first 10% of the cards I have to send out. I'm hoping to do 20% per batch after this. We'll see. Maybe I can do more. Might end up doing less here and there. But I also don't want to overwhelm my post office too much. It's a tiny little post office. And I don't want to annoy them either. So I'm trying to figure out how best to approach this. And knowing that they reach where they're going to go is the next step for me to know better how I can continue approaching it. Um, this is not as accurate as I hoped it would be. As of yesterday, I was aware, as far as I'm aware, all orders should be out now. All orders are not out. Looks like the store bundles haven't gone out yet, and and about a third of the international hasn't gone out yet. Um, that should be done this week. So this part, however, still applies. So give it about 2 weeks, and if you haven't received your books, do email me at ironversecomics@gmail.com, and we'll suss out what happened. Either it got lost in the mail, or whatever else had happened to it, and we'll start catch-ups as soon as we know everything's out. Um, I am hoping to paint the three figures I have to paint and get the certificates of authenticity kind of made up and printed out and signed, all that good stuff. Um, should be sending t-shirts out again this week. If you did order a t-shirt, and there's only about 15 of you who did, um, and you haven't sent me your size that you want, please do. And if you haven't sent in a preference on the t-shirt, go to ironversecomics.com, look at our t-shirts available, pick one, let me know which one you want. Otherwise, I'm going to just pick one for you. Um, and hopefully we'll be finished with that pretty quick. Um, and then, of course, I talk a little bit about this. We're on to issue number 4. The script has been written, reference photos have been attached, and we're waiting to start that hopefully next month. I want all of this campaign, however, to be behind us before I launch that, so it's probably going to be the end of next month that we give that a go. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm just super excited to have honored the arrangement that was made to get issue number 3 done, right? With all you kind backers. So I appreciate your patience, appreciate your support. I'm so happy the books are finally reaching you. Metal cards will be reaching you soon, and we're almost there. And I couldn't ask for a more patient and supportive community. Whether or not I exactly always deserve it, I'm grateful for it. So thank you. Um, see. So that was that one. Always some kind of spelling mistake with me. Usually kind of a dyslexic one where I switch a letter. Um, I think I spoke about this update last week, which was kind of telling you to pay attention to this. It's very similar, so I don't need to talk about that update. But yeah, you'll receive something that kind of looks like this. The metal card. Oh, here you go. I have all the stuff here. So what I did, and I did this. I'm not sure what video it was, but I have discussed this already. But just as another reminder, anybody's watching. So you get a metal card that gets wrapped in a piece of kind of strong paper about this way, so it ends up quite a few wraps, and then that gets placed in a envelope, and then the address and stuff is put on it and stamped and then mailed. Wicked Publishing's arrived within a couple days, and they said it was in good condition, so I'm hopeful all of yours will be that way. Some cards, however, when this bothered the hell out of me, and I'm gonna be talking to the creator of the cards if we do metal cards again. There is this, and I don't know if it'll show up on film. In fact, let me go ahead and switch to a better view. Boop. Will it show up on film? Oh yeah, kinda. You can see it up there. You see that gunk? That's within the case and sometimes on the card. I was able to get 80% of it off the cards, and there's about 400 cards I had to do it to, right? Um, but I couldn't get all of it. So you may receive cards that have that goop on there. Um, my hope is something like Goof Off or some other chemical can take it off if you're really neurotic about it. But otherwise, it shouldn't affect about 95% of the signatures. So it should be able to be cleaned off if you're really neurotic about it. Otherwise, you just replace the sleeve here and you'll be good. Um, my apologies on that end, however, and I didn't expect to have that, and I spent about 5 minutes per card trying to get it off, and I know 5 minutes ain't much, but when you're doing it 400 times, it becomes a bit of a pain in the ass, and I should have maybe done more before I'm sending these out, and I still might. But there's a likelihood you're going to receive that, and my hope is, again, if I ever do these cards, I can get the manufacturer to actually make sure they don't send me shit with stick on it. That would be wonderful. But every first attempt at something is going to have some quirks, and that's these quirks. So I will do a Indiegogo update on these specifically detailing, what it is so that folks aren't too surprised when they receive a card that might have that stuff on it. I think it's some kind of adhesive that's used during the cutting process of the metal. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. And if you do have complaints about it, let me know and I will apologize, but there's not much else I can do about it. 20 minutes per like 400 cards. I'd never get these out to you, right? Um, so did what I could. Uh, but anywho, those are out. That's how it's being shipped and packed. Should be okay. Hopefully they arrive here this week, the first batch, and then I can start doing bigger batches. Mailing items backers is the part I hate the most. So many factors outside of our control. Yep, that's why I outsourced the bulk of the fulfillment to my publisher. I couldn't even. I'm barely able to do these little cards, right? And it's just a folding and packing and then printing shipping labels and then buying stamps and shooting it out, right? It's a little bit less than bagging, boarding, um, getting the posters right, getting the sticker in there, and then putting in the mailer, and then printing the labels, and then shipping. Pain in the ass, no matter what. And I'm so very glad to be partnered with Wicked Publishing for this, because with how this year has been for me, I don't think you guys would have gotten your books without them, and that's kind of what would have been last time too. It's a massive, it's tremendous help to me. So yeah, but I'm excited. We're getting these done, and they should be arriving. Let's see. Is there anything else update wise? Issue 4 is getting worked on, as I kind of said. The script is whoop, 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 whoop. Where's the stamp? Oh, it's up here. There we go. Is getting looked at. We're looking at maybe doing having Dollar Coins do storyboarding of issue number 4 to help speed up Maxie's line work. However, I'm not sure how that'll go. I'll kind of announce that as we move forward. I've got a thing going on Twitter where every 5 likes on a specific post will get you reference images from issue 4 script if you folks are kind of more curious of some of the content in it. Um, so check that out. It's on my profile there at cowboy_steel. If you engage on that platform, I understand not everybody does. And the Cactus Coyote Ash Can should be about there. It's completely readable now by dollar coins lettering on the pages, right? But we're having our wonderful IronVerse Comics letterer, Vincent Rush, letter those pages. So we'll have more professional lettering here soon. And when that's done, um, I think it will be coming with issue number 4's campaign. I'm hoping it'll go in the back of issue number 4, especially since we don't have to fund it. We paid out of pocket for it. So it's just nice bonus material. You'll get a second comic in the regular comic. I'm really hopeful that'll work. But we'll see. We'll see. And outside IronVerse Comics, I have a couple projects in the air. I'm really excited for one that's almost completely manifested. I'll be pushing that as hard as I can once it does manifest. And there's another one that's in a tentative creative position that I'm excited because it's with a Team IronVerse Comics artist that I've been wanting to work with for a very long time. So hopefully something cool will come out of that too. Um, it's a cool opportunity for a collaboration with this cat, and I really like this guy. So uh, hopefully it'll work out. So far, it should. I'm interested in the concept, and I think I can lend it some interesting perspective as a writer and editor. So we'll see. We'll see. So I'm moving forward with comics, right? Fucking love comics. And that's why you're here. That's why I'm here. And I'm excited for the future. Um, Lots of things in the works. Even Wicked Publishing has a lot of cool stuff. We should actually have issues 1 and 2 of Jack back on the store here pretty damn soon. Um, we might have a small batch of number 3 also released once we have finished delivering to all the backers. And moving forward, man, this year's been a struggle. It's been a hard year, and push through it anyway, right? I'm super grateful. Folks who followed the GoFundMe that I ran as well, I had to order checks, so I'm waiting for those to come in. Um, and once they're in, I'm going to cut the check to the lady, and that should be all done, and my well should be paid for, and I should be okay thanks to you wonderful people spreading the word that I needed help. And I really did. And I do honestly, but that was a major weight off my shoulders that honestly I don't know how I would have dealt with otherwise. Piece by piece I would have, but just being able to lift it off and move it is just incredible, and I'm so grateful for it. And thank you. I'll be updating that GoFundMe as soon as I have those checks in and as soon as I can pay it. But money's been had, and it's sitting, just waiting to be charged and sent to the right person, and I am so fucking grateful for that. I think that covers the primary bits of updates. I can show, since we're live, and I think we just hit the 3rd reference image. We did. We're getting close to the 4th, so let me go ahead and post that 3rd reference image. Really bugs me that I can't yeah, I can't do that. That's really annoying. So I can't copy an image directly from a Google document into, say, Twitter or whatever. So I have to take a screenshot of the image and then do it. Um, but yeah, I'll show you those first 3 images just to kind of preview. Thank you folks for doing that, and kind of show you the original one that if you like it, it'll help push more, not spoilers, just reference images. Not really spoilers. I need display capture though on right there. Boom. So every 5 likes, I'll share another one. Of course, we're at 17 so far. So once it hits 20, we'll be on image 4. But the first image, something from the movie The Postman. I'm a big fan of the Costner post-apocalyptic movies. Um, this one, an old train gang from the Old West. And the one I just posted, which will load hopefully, is a very awful uh, phrase that was placed over work camps. Not a big fan, but it's thematically on point and it lends weight and gravity to what I'm trying to discuss. So work is freedom, basically, is what that says in German. So that's the third image. We're working through a very interesting issue. I'm really excited for number 4. I think it's my best work so far, and I'm super excited to see how it manifests through the rest of the process. So we're doing this to kind of preview and hype it. We'll see how it goes. But with that, I think. Well, let me do this so I don't get myself in trouble. Boop, boop, boop. I think that covers it. I think that's everything I can discuss today on what you're reading, chatting, and other updates. Um, Glad we've done 9 of these. I've been able to be consistent, at least one a week for the last 2.25 months. That's really nice. Um, Next week, uh, I think I'll be close to running out of my Gru issues, which sucks. And I'm not sure what else I'm going to be reading. Um, Again, that Battle Angel Alita next volume, brand new, it ships about a week from today. So that won't be till maybe 2 weeks out. I'll be able to discuss the next chapter of Battle Angel Alita. Um, there's a third of these Scott McCloud textbooks. I might try and get a hold of the third one just so I can read the trilogy, right? But that won't be for a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an open slate for next week. I'm really unsure. Digitally, I might go back to reading more Hajime no Ippo. It's super inspiring, super fun, gorgeously rendered, goofy as all hell, um, but amazingly dedicated to artistry. And I just that's the kind of work I love reading. Uh, I have a bunch of IronVerse quickies. I am so backlogged on IronVerse quickies. I've got like 30 to do, and I just have not been able to sit down and fucking film them, write them, and film them. But I will. I will. I want to get those shorts back out. Very. I like that series a lot. I just have not felt inspired to do it. Not because of the reads, but because I just have not felt like doing the process. And it's a very quick process. The whole reason I made that is so that it's an easy, quick, non-burdensome process for me. I don't have to edit the script. I just have to write it so I have something to go off of and talk for a couple minutes on camera. Um, so I've just been postponing, and I've got many to talk about. A few crowd funds, and then a bunch of kind of older independent comics that I really, really want to talk about. So I'll get there. I'll get there. Hopefully this week, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Um, but we'll see what we can do there. I really want to return to that series. Mainly because it keeps the channel alive besides this one stream a week, right? I haven't been doing gaming for shit either. I've just been working, so it's been kind of hard to get on here. So I'm glad I'm able to at least once a week to come talk to you folks and be here and answer questions, do the updates, talk about what I've been consuming myself, and hopefully talk about what you folks have been reading. Again, before I close this out, if you folks have anything you've been reading you want to talk about, place it in chat. We'll talk about it before I go. Otherwise, we're about there, folks. We're about there. I really appreciate your time. I'm going about an hour. I'd like to be closer to an hour and a half if I can, but honestly, shorter form's more likely to be watched again later, so whatever works. But yeah, I'd like to get at least another 9 minutes going. So, have I read anything else digitally recently? No. Um, I did watch Black Widow. I don't know if anybody's curious about that. I enjoyed it enough. Um, it was fine. It wasn't anything that it was painted to be, which was good. It wasn't the best Marvel movie by far. It wasn't the worst. Um, and I have opinions on what the worst ones were that a lot of people wouldn't agree with. So, Um, it's a good send off for the character, and it set off a couple other characters to take up a mantle, which is nice. Um, yeah, it was fine. It was fine. Um, that's about the comic book related stuff I'm connected to right now. Uh, yeah. So I guess I might have to close this out a little bit early. A little disappointing, but that's how it goes. I appreciate your folks' time. Let me go ahead and make sure there's nothing else I could connect with. I could show you some preview images from the Cactus Coyote ash can, which I've done before. Okay, that's what that is. What's this? Show me what this image is so I can see if I want to share it. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah. Any comic video games? Recently, no. In fact, I can't think of any like new release I've been interested in that's comic book related, right? What I tend to play recently, and I was on a bit of a kick of it last week, was RimWorld. I'm a huge RimWorld fan. Space colony simulator kind of thing. Kind of niche. Uh, I think they call the genre story generation. I think is what they call the genre because it's that's what it does. It generates a story of a colony you try and build, right? It's a colony management simulator that's goal is to provide stories. Really enjoyable. I've spent hours on that because it's one of those like Civilization and a few others that can just eat through time. RimWorld does it better than almost any other game for me. It just tears through time. It can be 6 hours later and it feels like it's been a half hour. It's one of those games. But comic book game wise, not size on disc. Let's see. Most play. Last played. No, I need hours played. And that'll kind of give me an idea. No. No, sadly. Now overall, I've played so many in my life that I absolutely adored. I think the first superhero game that I got really engrossed on was X-Men Legends. And then following that, I played X-Men Legends 2, and then I loved the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. That was like one of my first introductions to a lot of really cool Marvel characters was Ultimate Alliance and Ultimate Alliance 2. Um, I'm a big fan of Mugen, the open source Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom kind of engine that has a bunch of characters into it. I have a specific version that's Marvel vs. DC and has a few image characters. I used to play that a lot more. It's a little wonky on this new PC, so I haven't played it much, but I really enjoyed that. Um, Biomutant's got a little bit of a comic book presentation here and there, and I enjoyed that as much as I played. I played a little bit of it on in fact, all I've played on it, I have played live on the channel, so you folks can check that out. And I really enjoyed that. I just haven't felt like getting up and streaming gameplay, so I haven't played Biomutant since. So that's been a while. Um, yeah, honestly, I don't game as much as I used to. RimWorld tends to do it when I'm going to do it because it's relaxing enough and engage you with the brain enough that I can kind of just disconnect and I'm playing RimWorld instead of I'm playing a video game and this is what I want to do with it. Um, yeah, video. I don't know if I even have anything on here that's fucking comic book related. It bothers me. Like the most recent comic book game that I'm really aware of is the fucking Avengers game that came out like last year. So I'm really not on point for that. Um, on stream, I played through all of X-Men Origins Wolverine. That was really fucking fun. I've got Deadpool sitting here. I'd like to go through on stream as well, but I just haven't done it. I've gone through the older The Punisher video game on stream as well, and fucking A, I love playing that all the time. It's a great game. It's about 7 hours of streaming or something on there. Wolverine, I think, was about 5 hours. So that content's all on the channel if you're curious. I really enjoyed those. Um, there are some classic Marvel games I really enjoy, like the old beat 'em ups on Super Nintendo and Genesis, like Marvel's Avengers, I think it was called, something like that. Enjoy that. Wolverine Adamantium Rage is fine. A lot of them I don't get very far in. It's really tough. The Punisher on Genesis is one of my favorites back in the day. That one's fun. Uh, I'm looking at my bar, and that's about it. My Left 4 Dead is kind of has Harley Quinn and Deadpool put in both vocal lines and models. I don't know if that counts, but I haven't played that for a while either. I haven't been able to game much, and when I do, it's something that just eats through too much time, so I don't tend to do it. Um, but yeah, I guess that does cover it. Yeah, RimWorld was the last game I played on here. And I played a little Civ 5, a little bit of Voodoo Vince because I hadn't played it. And I actually want to play that on stream, so I didn't go too far in it. Played a little Civ 5 because I couldn't get RimWorld, all the mods I had working so well, so I played a little bit of Sim 5, but it's glitchy as fuck because of the mods I have in there, so I didn't do too much of that. Uh, my copy of Fallout 4 is basically modded to be IronVerse Comics, so that kind of works. Um, you remember Spider-Man for the N64? Hmm. Yeah, I don't. I don't. I remember Superman 64 very well, but that's just because it's legendarily terrible. Um, God, I feel like, do I really not have anything comic booky on my Steam account? That's sad. You would think it'd happen more often. Think good comic book games would happen. Closest, yeah, closest thing I come to is Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, which kind of retconned all of the Samurai Jack comics. um, as did the season 5 of the show, but huge inspiration for why I make art at all is Samurai Jack, so that counts for me. Uh, you know, yeah, no, not in the favorites. Okay, there are some bad. Yeah, okay, so I've got a lot of the Arkham series, and I played through Arkham, and I played through Arkham City. I haven't played through I haven't played Arkham Origins, and I haven't played through Arkham Knight, but I have them. I also have the Telltale games, which I've watched on YouTube, but I haven't played through. So Batman's covered. It's hard not to be covered by Batman, though. He's pretty ubiquitous. I kind of consider the Darksiders series comic books also, just because it's Joe Mad did all the character designs and shit, so it's very comic booky. But I've never gotten through them. I got really far into Darksiders, the original, or Darksiders War Mastered Edition, I guess it is. Never beat it. A little too tedious and trial and error for me. I'm lazy. Often I'm really lazy with games. Um, Garfield cart. Garfield's a comic. Freedom Force, the Freedom Force games also I've been looking forward to playing on stream. I just haven't gotten to it. They're comic book games for sure with a really open character creator. Bum, 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 bum. Judge Dredd, Dredd versus Death. That's a fun one. It's just a little janky. Um, oh, and then the Lego Marvel games I played the fuck out of. And I have the Lego Batman stuff. Yeah, you played one Lego game, you played them all, though, sadly. Uh, Lego Marvel Superheroes, the original, was really good. The sequel's the same, just a little bit better. So, yeah. I guess that might. Let me look. Let me keep looking. That's probably it. Oh, and I did play through all of Wolf Among Us, the Telltale game on stream also. That's on the channel if you're curious. Um, though those are like interactive movies more than video games, in my opinion. So that's up to you. Huge fan of the Fables comic series, man. I tore through that. I lost it when it started having to reference like the Jack of Fables issues and stuff. It got too widespread. It was too much to have to juggle. But God, I must have read like 80, 90 issues of Fables. I fucking love that series. Beautifully. It was my favorite take on making folk tales, fairy tales adult. Just a wonderful way to go about it. A lot of respect, a lot of interest, interesting dynamics and mechanics that fit with the characters and fit with the real world. So well done. I can't recommend Fables enough. Bill Willingham is just incredible. Um, Still going through just in case I miss any, but I don't think so. I think that is all the comic book stuff I can bring up. Oh, I guess I do have the Walking Dead Telltale games, which I've never been through. But that does do it. That does do it. So that's what I got. And some of it I've gone through, some of it I have not. But most everything I spoke about is good stuff. Good stuff. It's just not the amazingly best stuff. Uh, but yeah, that's that's comic book video games that I've currently can remember that I've played. That probably does fill out that last 10 minutes, didn't it? Yes, it did. Thank you so much for the question because it allowed me to hit the mark I wanted to hit. Um, as always, in the comments below after this is done, if somehow you're one of the brave folks who watches this later, um, tell me what you've been reading and why. I want to know. I need to know. As a creator, I want to know what's hitting, whether it's back issues, current issues, trade paperbacks, self-contained graphic novels. Um, any of it. Let me know what's working for you so I can jump in there. Manga, manhwa, again, comics in all of its various forms. I want to know. If you've been reading regular books too, tell me. I'm just curious what kind of stories are resonating with you as a person. I know there's an infinite amount of artistry out there, and I like to kind of know what's connecting with people who end up finding me and connecting with me. Because usually there's something good there, right? And yeah, I'm uh I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics, and I'll catch you next week, if not sooner, on what you're reading. That'll be number 10. I'm hoping to have some kind of neat stuff to talk about. We'll see. And it should be next Wednesday, hopefully earlier. I tried to do these towards the morning. It just did not happen today. So we did it in the afternoon, evening kind of general area. And you can catch me on all the good stuff. Twitter at cowboy_steel, Minds at Jack Irons. IronVerseComics.com have all our links. So if you want to connect with me, that's where you'll find where. All kinds of good stuff. I don't think I've updated the site since last I spoke about updating the site, except for the most current live stream, which actually, after this is done, this live stream will be what's on there. Um, no new merch either. I'm hoping after this campaign, I'm going to update the merch on the site. I'm going to update the site a little bit, make it a little bit more clear, hopefully. And man, I'm just excited for the future. Getting over this, uh, getting through this amazing journey that was issue number three's release. I'm super grateful we were able to get it done, and I'm hoping we are able to get issue number four done, um, and go from there. We've got an incredible amount of potential and always have, and we're slowly but surely leveraging that potential. So I'm hoping that eventually we'll take right the fuck off. Anyway, love you folks. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics, and I will catch you on that rusty trail. Uh, See you on down the line, folks.